identify who the right person is. After we've identified the right person, we've got to get past the gatekeeper. We want to put the right person into a positive mindset. And to do that, we can start with something called yes tag questions. And if you can't remember what yes tag questions are from previous courses that you might have done, we'll talk about those in just a minute, and I'll remind you what they are. So let's take these ideas one at a time. How can you identify who the right person is you want to speak to? Okay, you can check in the background. Okay, so the first thing is to, based upon the information that you have available to you on the system,
you're calling us for that person.
you're going to call and ask for that person, exactly. Now, here's a few things I want to suggest to you. Let's imagine that your system says that the person that you're going to be calling, let's imagine that that's Mr. Brown. So you might ring the number, and when it's answered at the other end, let's assume it's a man's voice, and you might, what would you say, is that Mr. Brown? May I speak to Mr. Brown? How would you open the call?
Can I speak to Mr. Brown?
Can I speak to Mr. Brown? Okay. And he then says, it's Mr. Brown speaking. What's your next line?
Introduce yourself.
Introduce yourself. Okay. So this is Anne, I'm calling you from Hidden Hearing, something like that. Okay. Then what do you say?
You made an inquiry to us.
You made an inquiry to us, to which he then says, no, I didn't. Okay, now, well, let's just stop it there for the minute. So if you start the introduction thing, and the minute you say you made an inquiry or you've asked for information, anything like that, and the client says to you, no, I haven't, I want your brain to now flag this is probably a type 3 client. This is probably somebody else who's made the inquiry on this person's behalf, but they know nothing about it. So I want to give you a phrase that you can now say to the client. And the phrase goes like this. Can you think of anybody that may have given us your details? Now, before you actually use that phrase, I want you to acknowledge what the customer has said. So part of demonstrating empathy is to acknowledge. So the acknowledgement might be something as simple as, "Oh, I'm sorry about that." So when he says to you, you say to the client, "I'm telephoning you today because you've requested some information," and the client says, "No, I haven't." And you might say, "Oh, I'm sorry. Can you think of anyone that may have given us your details?" And then just wait and see what you get back. Now, one of two things are going to happen. What's one of the possibilities?
No.
He says no. Okay, no, I can't think of anyone. In which case you're going to have to say, "Okay, thank you very much, I'm sorry to have bothered you," and you're going to have to hang up. Let's just take the other angle. What if you then say to them, so what if you said to them, "Can you think of anybody who may have given us your information?" And he then says, "Oh, I bet that was my damn son." How do you respond to that? Yeah, okay. So, would you mind giving me his contact details? I need to speak with him. Okay, would you mind giving me his contact details? I need to speak with him. Now, if you just think about the phrases that I'm suggesting that you use, and the client might think you want to phone the son and tell the son to stop wasting your time. Listen to it again. Client says, I've not asked for details, I've not sent in a form. And you say, I'm sorry about that. Can you think of anybody else, or can you think of anybody that may have given us your details? I bet that was my damn son. Do you have a number where we could contact you, because I really need to speak to him? That could sound like you're going to phone the son up and say, stop wasting our time. Okay? But of course you're not. What you're doing is you're using this conversation to find out who is the right person to speak to. Identify the right person. So this idea of if you said to somebody, I'm phoning you today regarding the information that you requested, and they said to you, oh yes, what does that tell you? So they're not an existing hearing aid user, as you can see that from your screen. I'm phoning you today, following up on the information you requested. What does that immediately now tell you when they say yes? So they are the right person, and they're a type 2 client. Okay? They've acknowledged that they've sent in the thing, they're willing to admit that they've sent in the thing, and therefore they're a type 2 client who wants to be helped. Okay, so in the first few seconds of actually you starting this call, the moment you've completed your introduction and you've said to them, I'm phoning you today to follow up on the inquiry you've made regarding your hearing, and they say, oh yes, type 2 client. I've not made an inquiry. Oh, type 3 client. Someone has made it on their behalf.